Our next speaker is a senior dev for Braintree. He is a little bit Italian, a little bit Dutch, and lives in London right now. And he's going to talk about, he's a perfect person then, to talk about payments and culture and how is money different from culture to culture. We've touched on a little bit already. We're going to hear a lot more about it now. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Cristiano Betta. Very good. You've got that there.
My name is Cristiano. I'm going to talk to you about this strange planet Earth. I'm a senior developer advocate. What does that mean? I'll explain in a second. I'm going to talk about how payments are cultural. It's very much a follow-up of the previous talk, but really focusing just on payments. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see if you guys are awake, and I know you are not. Just from the previous talk again, I've noticed you are not, so this is a test for you all. This is my first time here in Tallinn. I'm Dutch, I like cold weather. When I looked up Tallinn, I saw the pictures of the snow. I was like, I love this, I should move here. Then I looked up local cuisine. So I'm not quite sure, so maybe I should just go for an e-residency instead, okay? So let's talk about this Earth. Who am I? I'm Cristiano, I'm a developer advocate. I work for Braintree, I already said that. Braintree is part of PayPal. I do a lot of things on our team. I do evangelism, which means I get to travel a lot. I also am what we call our master builder, which is stuff we nicked from Lego, which means I get to build everything on our team. But at the core, what I want to talk to you about today is that I travel a lot, like a lot. That was me on that plane there. And what that makes me is, it makes me an expert in a couple of different things. First off, it makes me an expert in in-flight safety manuals. Right? This, although lately I've just been sleeping through them. Who sleeps through these things? Yeah, because they're all the same, right? Just for your reference, the emergency exits are at the back, over there, and never mind. So, at Braintree, I travel a lot. I travel for a couple of reasons. Braintree, we do payments for these companies. Yes, Uber is in there, but we also support a whole bunch of independent kind of taxi companies. But what I'm mainly focused on, I work a lot with developers. So I hang out with a lot of you guys. Who here is a developer? Come on, that's good. That's what I wanted. Let's see, designer? Ooh. Marketing? Sales? Yeah. Ah, like one over there. They're always the loud people. But what I do is I go to a lot of hackathons. We run our Battle Hack series, so we run a lot of that kind of stuff, which is really awesome. It's like 14 cities, and in each city we give away axes as prizes. And this year we went full Tron, so of course the axe lights up in the dark. And if you want one, sorry, this is the only plug I'm really going to make. In September we have, just coming up in Stockholm, which apparently is really close to here. We have one coming up, and you can win a glowing axe. There's still tickets for it. Anyway, I also work a lot with startups. So we have two programs. We have one called Blueprint, where we give a lot of free transactions away to startups. And we have a Start Tank program in our office where we give away free office space in London to startups. And when I talk to startups, who here works at a startup? Cool. Who here wants to build a startup or is building something new? Awesome. So when I talk to startups, I hear the following thing quite a bit. Why would I care about accepting anything else but credit cards? And that, to me, hurts for a couple of different reasons. First of all, because it kind of reads like this, right? It kind of reads like everybody has a credit card, right? Which just simply isn't true. And what I hope to show you in this talk next is how the world changes and how the world doesn't accept credit cards everywhere. But really, at the core of it, what it reads to me is, if you don't have a credit card, you're not worth my attention. I don't really care about you. And that hurts the most to me. Because I'm Dutch. That's like 16 million people in that little, tiny little yellow bit over there. Actually, you might be going, wait, your name is Cristiano? Yes, I'm also Italian. Yes, my wife is Australian. That's not her. She's also Indonesian, just to complicate things. Anyway, the Netherlands is known for bicycles, yes, Gouda cheese, Yes? And some really weird ways of paying online. So how do we pay online, right? About 11% is credit card. A lot of people in the Netherlands, like Harsha, they have a credit card and it only comes out when they travel. Like it's that thing they take to the US or to the UK, etc. Or occasionally, like they're now slowly changing to using it online. And then we've got some local different kind of ways of paying, which are very local specific. And then about 56% is direct debit. And for those of you, I don't know if that's a common term here, it's basically bank-to-bank transfer. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would I care about the Netherlands? And clearly you don't. Clearly you don't, because that's not Gouda cheese. That's Emmental cheese. That's Gouda cheese. Yeah, shame on you. How dare you? Anyway, so let's focus a bit more on all the other bits of the world and how they pay online. Of course, in Tallinn, I've noticed people do accept credit cards quite often, but around the world, things are quite different. So let's talk about something you might be interested in. Europe. Or actually, Europe is not very interesting, really. Europe has about 740 million people, but that includes a lot of countries that aren't really Europe, like Russia. So let's look at the EU. That's 503 million people. But that includes weird countries that take weird currencies and aren't very rich, like Switzerland. So let's focus on the euro only. That's 334 million people approximately. But that's even still a lot of countries. So as a startup, you've already limited it down to just one currency, but let's just focus on the top 5 countries. So that's Germany, France, Spain, Italy, and the Netherlands. Now, I completely arbitrarily picked 5 because it includes the Netherlands, but it also comes to about 80% of the entire population of the Eurozone, which is very convenient for this example. Now, if we look at France, France, the way people pay might be quite familiar. So France, known for baguettes, mimes, the River Rhine. And the way they pay online is about half of them use credit cards, and then there's a whole bunch of PayPal that they use. And then they have some other local kind of variations that they use to really process their online payments. But again, you don't care about France. I know that because you didn't notice that that's not a baguette, that's a ciabatta. Come on, people. That's a baguette. Come on, it's not that hard. You guys are really not awake today. Okay, so Germany. Let's talk about a real country, Germany. Germany, that's over there. They're a serious country with serious beer. German Wall and the River Rhine, again. The way they pay online, very different. About 46% is ELV, and ELV is basically the German equivalent of direct debit. And then there's 26% of other stuff, and then there's a fraction that only uses credit card. And this is silly, because can I point out, these countries, they share a border. They even share a river. Actually, I have scientific proof that Germany and France are more different than Germany and Malawi. There we go. It's 160 million results, 1.2 million results. Now, to kind of go into why is Germany so different? Well, Germany still, if you go to Germany, in real life, people still pay about 80% of their transactions in cash. There's actually a 500 euro bill. The 500 euro bill realistically only exists because there used to be a 1,000 mark bill that Germans really used, and they really wanted an equivalent. And the conversion was about 2 to 1. So when the euro was introduced, they really wanted one. The funny thing is, if you go to France, they don't accept it. They actually call it the German bill, right? But you go over the border to Germany, and they'll just accept it and take it. The same in the UK. In the Netherlands. If you go to the Netherlands and try to pay with a 500 euro bill, they're going to go, well, can you just go to the bank and get some smaller denominations? Because they just don't know if it's fake or not. They go wait, yeah, sure, that's a real bill. So to talk about Germany and why why do they pay so much in cash, you really got to go all the way back to World War I and World War II. Because after World War I, Germany got put into this massive debt, which basically gave politicians, and we know who the politicians around those times were, a really good opportunity to blame other countries and other minorities for, their debt. And they don't want to go into that direction again. So after Second World War, they've been very, very credit averse. They don't like to lend. They don't like to buy houses. They don't like to, they don't like to spend the money they don't have, which means that almost none of them have credit cards. Now compare that to US. US credit debt in 2015. So this is all the outstanding debt that people have on their credit card in the US in 2015. Almost 12 trillion. That's a lot of zeros. A lot of zeros. Now, if you compare that to the Greek debt, right, that thing that we're all talking about, which is so huge, that's 340 billion. The credit card debt is 35 times higher. We can probably put the Greek debt on the global credit card bill and nobody will notice. It's even funny, if you stack up all the, if you take $1 bills and you stack them up, yeah, for the Greek debt, you can barely make it to orbit. With the credit card debt, you can go to the moon and back. It's insane how big an amount that is. But again, credit cards, even if you look at credit cards, this is credit cards, so I need to look this up. Credit cards per person. So the more darker the blue, the more credit cards people have. As you can see, there's a lot of data missing in Africa where they either just don't have it or we don't know. Apparently, interestingly, Japan and Canada have the highest credit cards to per person ratio. But even bank accounts aren't that popular. This graph is a bit weird. The wider it is, the more bank accounts there are per person. So the redder areas are really lacking in bank accounts even. But that's credit cards and bank accounts, and that's not really interesting. You're doing cool shit, right? Whose startup is doing cool stuff? Seriously, everybody who not put their hand up, I don't know what's wrong with you. Okay, so let's talk about something cool. And I know what's cool. Everybody thinks this stuff is cool. Apple Pay, right? We all love Apple Pay. Who here has used Apple Pay yet? No? Who wants to use Apple Pay as soon as it comes out in Estonia? See, there's a few of you. So Apple Pay is pretty cool, except for when you start kind of counting up what you'd need. So, to really use it properly, you need an Apple Watch, and then you need an iPhone and a credit card. In the UK, that comes to about £838. So let's talk about this country, Paraguay, right? The average salary in Paraguay per year is that amount, a bit more than $4,000. That means that £838 is about 30% of an annual salary. That's insane. But again, you don't care, because that's not Paraguay, that's Uruguay, that's Paraguay. Wake up, people. So let's talk about Malawi. It came up earlier already. That's Malawi. In Malawi, if you would use the same amount, £838, that is 5 times the average yearly income per person. Now, Malawi is the poorest country in the world. And I'm not even talking about the crazy gold edition Apple Watch, right? I'm just talking about the cheapest one. But what they do have in there is M-Pesa. M-Pesa, if you're not familiar, is a system for transferring money purely using text messages, using mobile phones. And this, like I said before, it's the way this came about is they looked at what people were actually doing. And what people were doing is they were transferring mobile phone balances, because you can transfer mobile phone balances from one person to another. And people were using that to pay each other. So I buy something for you, and I go, what's your phone number? And I'll just send you some balance. And they realized that's pretty cool, so why not extend that, with an actual business model around it? And that's what they did. That's M-Pesa. And it's super popular. It's super popular, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. Again, you don't care, because you might have guessed that's not Malawi. That's actually Lake Malawi. So that's not even a country. That's Malawi. But again, like you might go, okay, I'm a startup. Why would I care about Malawi? Why would I care about M-Pesa? That's far away. Well, it's available in Romania. And it's quite popular in Romania. So let's talk a bit more about Africa. Africa is interesting. Africa is a bit crazy when you start looking at certain numbers. Do you know that Africa has more mobile money accounts than Facebook accounts? That's crazy. It actually has more mobile phones than toilets. Actually, if you look at the global scale, there is actually more mobile phones on this planet than there are toilets. But again, you don't care because that's a bidet, not a toilet. Yes, and the only people who have more bidets than mobile phones are the French people. Okay? Any French people here? I'm sorry. Too many French jokes, or not. So this is mobile connectivity around the world. As you can see, like Africa is still pretty damn dark. But the cool thing is, if you start looking at the actual kind of graph, so this is like it's a bit hard to read. So this on the left is that's kind of a regular graph, and that's kind of a log graph. As you can see, like somewhere in the next 4 to 8 years, we're going to see almost everybody in Africa going to come online in one way or another. At the moment, they're all in dumb phones, but at some point in the next 4 to 8 years, we're going to see a big boom where all of these people are going to come online with smartphones. Smartphones are getting cheaper. If you look at Firefox OS, if you look at Android One, there's all these initiatives to bring this kind of stuff to those markets because there is a lot of money there. So at the moment, the thing that is stopping this, one of the things is that if you look at Africa, like most of the internet cables go around Africa, but they don't go through Africa. So this is still a big challenge to actually, go inland and connect everything. So if you go to Lagos, right, you'll get amazing internet. But if you go northern Nigeria, the internet connectivity is very different. But again, that's Africa. That's not interesting. Let's talk about something interesting. Let's talk about something that's massively popular. Bitcoin. Who here has Bitcoin? Cool. Who here lost a lot of Bitcoin? Oh, one over there. Sorry, man. You lost some fake money. No, I'm just kidding. Bitcoin market cap. So Bitcoin market cap, $3.7 billion. Right? That's from a couple of days ago. If you look at the Greece debt, sorry, that's the wrong Greece. That's Greece. Greece debt, again, $340 billion. Now, these are big numbers, so you kind of have to start figuring out how to connect these together. So what I did is I started looking at GDP. So let's look at the German GDP. The German GDP, on a yearly basis, is $3.7 trillion. Now, Kenya, which is one of the countries where M-Pesa is present. By the way, I tried to make some funny jokes about Kenya, but finding interesting stuff about Kenya is actually quite hard if you're not actually from there and know the culture. That's actually Mount Kenya, which is the second highest mountain in Africa and is higher than any mountain in the EU. Kenya is also known mainly for the Swahili language, which brought us terms like safari and jumbo. Anyway, that's the end of that service message. Kenya GDP, 55 billion. Now, if you put that in perspective, you look at the kind of current valuation of the M-Pesa kind of system, comes to about 600 million. Now, if you compare that, if you start comparing Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is pretty popular in Germany, if you compare that ratio to the ratio of what M-Pesa is on a Kenyan GDP, M-Pesa is huge in Africa compared to Bitcoin in the rest of the world, right? And I know that Bitcoin is interesting, and all of these cryptocurrencies, they're pretty interesting, and we're currently up to like 669 different currencies, although most of them aren't used. And the most current addition to that is Aurora Coin, which is an Icelandic Bitcoin kind of fork, which automatically got assigned to everybody in Iceland with an EID. So almost everybody in Iceland currently has an Aurora coin, or at least has a few of them. is worth very little. And given Iceland, next volcano, it's probably all going to go up in smoke anyway. But if you look at Bitcoin usage around the world, whoa, that didn't quite come across. That's gray over there. Africa's just disappeared. If you look at Bitcoin usage, this is the usage around the world. You see that, yes, it's popular again in the Western world, but around the rest of the world, it's just not as popular. And if you look actually at the legality, this graph actually has a darker shade of green that is just nowhere present anywhere, which means it's fully legal. Bitcoin still isn't fully legal anywhere. It's not incorporated into like the tax system, etc. anywhere. It's not white cash, as you call it before. So let's finally talk a little bit about cash. People always think like cash is cheaper than doing digital payments. Actually, it turns out that's not true. So in the Netherlands, they did a research recently which shows that on average per cash transaction, the cost of per transaction on average, the cost of processing a cash transaction is higher than the cost of processing a digital transaction. Because you got to think, there's still cost involved with cash transactions. You have to pick up the cash, you have to bring it somewhere, you have to process all of that time that is spent in there, right? Is time that's spent, and that's actually cost. They estimated in the US, it's about $200 billion a year it costs the US economy just by not having a fully digital economy. And the reason for that is a couple of things. So it's like more fraud, etc. But it's also just simply tax gap. And tax gap is a fancy word of saying people aren't reporting all of their income, which means certain taxes aren't, applied. So the government is missing out on taxes, which cost the country money. Now, there's an interesting look if you start looking at ATM machines around the world. Apparently, Russia has a really large amount of ATM machines. Now, this is totals. If you start looking at actually per rata, kind of like per people in the country, Russia is still doing pretty damn good together with Australia and Canada, and Spain and Portugal, apparently. Now, cash machines are really expensive. And they've slowly been disappearing. If you look at like most of Europe and like the US has a very low amount of cash machines. And one of the reasons for that is that during the crisis, right, a lot of banks closed down, and especially they slimmed down the amount of branches that they had. And with the branches, the cash machines disappeared. The ATMs disappeared. It costs on average, about $990 a month to install and manage a cash machine. So if you're a company and you really want like a cash machine near your shop or near your building, that's really expensive. So there's actually a really cool company in Russia that has done this really cool thing called Kiwi. Anybody know Kiwi? Cool, a few of you. So they've done some cool stuff where they, and I love the backstory on this one, the way they bootstrapped this. So this is a kind of a cash deposit box, so you can both get cash from it and deposit money into it, and you can deposit it to a whole bunch of different things, including PayPal. But the way they bootstrap this is, because cash machines are really expensive, and to buy them, they're quite pricey. So what they did is, when they bootstrapped the company, they actually used slot machines, because there were a whole bunch of companies in Russia that had a whole bunch of slot machines that they couldn't get rid of. And what are slot machines very good at? Keeping the money inside. So they used that, and that really allowed them to just bring that around the world, around Russia. They're solving that through that, and they're solving that because there's a lot of people who still, in Russia specifically, like to transact in cash, but then at the end of the day, you still want to put that cash somewhere safe. And that now exists. Now, the interesting thing is, like, there's a couple of interesting things, like, where we can start looking at as well is around, I lost my train of thought. Oh no, I remember. Is around digital currencies. So like really about digital cash that you can spend anywhere. And there's a couple of examples there. The Oyster system, in London we have a system for traveling around, and you can tap into the tube and the buzz and everything with the Oyster card. And basically, you put money on that card, and that money you can then use wherever you go. I can give you a card, and you can use it. It's like digital currency, except for it's at the moment only accessible on the tube systems. Now, the funny thing is they actually estimate at the moment there's about 100 million pounds stuck in cards, and that was in 2013. So these are cards that are not being used, that people have bought, put like a $5 on it, and then put it aside, or put like 50 quid on it, and then put it aside, and haven't used it. 100 million pounds on there. I'm not sure, but I think that's probably one of the biggest digital cash societies out there. So what are we doing at Braintree PayPal with that? So first of all, the thing that we love to do is ASCII. We love a lot of ASCII art. I have a whole bunch of cool stickers if you want some later on. They're also on the sticker table and got some other stuff. This is like a really cool one, and to show you that that one is not Photoshop, that's me and my colleagues in front of that thing. That's actually a real thing that was in San Francisco. And of course, we love certain things at Braintree. We love dragons, we love beer, we love cars, vans that will get you places, pigeons. I'm not sure what the pigeon idea was. Anyway, we love to play around with this ASCII stuff. We actually had a game that you can only find by, first of all, looking at the source code of the Braintree website, following a QR code made in ASCII to then find this site, to then play a game. It was pretty silly. And recently in London, we had like a massive campaign, and I really enjoyed that, just to see the buses coming by with like code on it. I like that. So what do we do? What we do is we allow you to, in one integration, right, put one line of code in, well, a few lines of code in, but really realistically in one integration that scales to mobile and web, that takes all of these different payment methods. Because you want to go around the world and offer these payment methods everywhere. You don't just want to go to one country and say, well, we're only going to take credit card. No, you want to offer ELV to the Germans. You want to offer Bitcoin to the people who really want to use Bitcoin. You want to use Apple Pay on your mobile because you still think that's a cool thing. And realistically, what we want to do, right, is to make you as a developer, as a startup, to go, from that initial question that I posted, to change it to this one, where you go, I'd be crazy if I wouldn't let my customers pay the way they want to pay, right? User experience is always about letting your customers do the thing they want to do the way they want to do it. But somehow with payments, quite often we go, no, you need to use credit card. Now, how do we do that? There's a couple of things that we do. At the core of it is tokenization. Now, tokenization, this is where the code comes in. I promise some code. I promise I'm actually a developer. This talk is highly devoid of code, but I am a developer. So what we do is we turn anything, so PayPal, into a token. We take Coinbase, which is our Bitcoin integration, turn it into a token. We take a credit card form, turn it into a token. We take Apple Pay, turn it into a token. We turn anything into a token. And for those of you not familiar with the terminology, a nonce is a temporary token. Yes? So on our back end, this is what the integration looks like. This is Ruby. You say an amount. You say, use that nonce. And boom, you've charged that PayPal account, that credit card, etc. Who here is a Ruby developer? Yeah, like you and us three. Me and you. Okay, some Node.js. Any Node.js people? Oh, wow. I was expecting a bit more. What is it here? Java? No. PHP? .NET? Okay, what is the popular? Python. It's just very diverse. Okay, that's interesting. Normally it's like Node.js and half the room puts their hand up. That's kind of what I'm used to these days. Anyway, that's what we do. So to wrap things up, the conclusion is that people are different around the world. We all have our cultural differences in the way we like to pay. But at the end, there's always the same things. There's certain things we don't want. There's certain things we don't want, which is mimes in general. There's certain things that we do want. Ice cream. And there's different ways in which we like to pay. There's different ways in which we like to pay, and I think you should probably try and serve us all. That's it from me. To really kind of blow your mind in the end, This picture I saw recently, and this one really blows my mind because I haven't even touched on Asia, and Asia is huge. So talk to me. My slides will be online. These are my links. I'd love to know how you pay. Come and find me. I'd love to know wherever you are from, what are the crazy ways that you pay. Come and find me. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Cristiano, lovely talk.
Thank you.
Thank you. How do like, I mean, there's all these things. How do we learn this? How do we know? There's so much to learn in this world about culture and payments. I mean, how did you do it before Braintree? Was this your thing before Braintree, or did you learn it in your company?
No, I learned this at Braintree.
Okay.
But like I said, like the thing for me is because I am a European. I don't see myself as Dutch. Like I see myself more as European because I have family from like everywhere. And then like I work for an American company. And you start realizing, especially when you deal with British people and Americans, that they think realistically that everything is credit cards. So it's more about just bringing the culture and spreading the message that there are different ways. But the thing that, like I said, the thing that we're trying to do at Braintree is that, of course, you don't have the time for that.
Right.
You don't have the time to really
You're trying to be the
cover
hub
everything.
of these
So we're
things,
trying
right?
to be the place where you can go and say, you know, at least we can take care of like 5, 6, 7 different payment methods. And of course, you know, once you support PayPal, you support pretty much like, I don't know what it is these days, like 195 different markets where, you know, people can pay you from. So, you know, you're really starting to talk about, you know, being able to take payments globally.
I was interested with these systems in other countries where the phone balance goes between person to person. Is that a white or black money?
Whew, good question.
Is that taxed? What does the government think about this?
Well, so you got to think normally when cash moves hand, and this is like, in general, like when cash moves hand, there's no security there, right? I give you cash, you give me product, like the value exchange really is at that moment in real life. And that's what people in certain countries still really like. They like to really do that value exchange in real life. The problem is when you start moving online, it's very asynchronous. Like I pay you, you ship me later, or you ship me, I pay you later. So what you want is you want security. And this is like, especially in like the M-Pesa example, like the M-Pesa example worked really well when it was just for like person to person, the value exchange happens right now. But if it was talking about online payments or any kind of other system where the service might actually be delivered at a different date, you want that sort of security in there. So that's where M-Pesa came in, and they kind of really offer that opportunity to really put this into white money. So it's tracked, it has a certain security model, a risk model behind it, etc.
Yeah.
So,
But then, I mean, if we're sending, usually I found, like what amazes me about, everyone keeps going on, oh, Uber's so great, we can just all do that person to person, like, and they're like, the government still wants their money sometimes. Like one thing I've learned is never with the government, right? They will get their money in the end somehow. And I'm so fascinated with the Uber example, how the government will find their way to get their money. And I mean, are they tracking this? Are they getting into M-Pesa accounts, or is that just cool for one person to just send some money to another person? Like,
I'm not that familiar with M-Pesa to answer that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's.
But you know, it's backed by, so M-Pesa is backed by Vodafone and some other companies. You know, and these companies are monitored by, so at least the profit that comes out of it, definitely.
Sure. Or is it that they're such small transactions and they're clearly person to person?
But it's even if you look at like Airbnb, like in a lot of countries, a lot of the Airbnb, you know, providers aren't paying taxes on the income.
Right.
And we now even see like in certain countries, you know, the government is clamping down on that, and you know, Airbnb is working together with those governments to make sure that people actually pay the taxes over the incomes that they.
Okay, they're kind of learning over time. Okay,
Yeah.
first there's like this golden period where companies like Airbnb can get away with this, and then finally the government goes.
When you're a young startup, you can get away with a lot of stuff.
Right, smaller transactions.
Yeah.
Right, because I guess then the government can track. I mean, because in my mind, the government sees everything. You know, who's paying it. At least, you know, they can at least keep track on that main Airbnb account to see where money's coming in and out of that, and then sort of track it back.
See, to me,
there.
the interesting thing about this stuff is not about, you know, people who normally are tracked going kind of off the grid. It's the other way around, which is there's a lot of people out there who are not banking. they don't have a bank account, or they have a bank account, but their nearest branch is like a 3-day drive away, right? So for them to have more and more of these digital technologies, the more they get connected to mobile phones, the more they will start transacting digitally. And the nice thing of transacting digitally is suddenly not just the government, but people have information about whether or not you are a good citizen, whether or not you can, whether or not you're trustworthy. And if you're trustworthy, you can get a loan. If you do all your transactions offline, if you do them all through cash, it's really hard to get a loan. And not everybody does that voluntarily. A lot of them do that because they just have no other option. So the nice thing of like Africa getting connected is there going to be a whole lot more people, who actually will have a credit history.
Right, and then you can get a loan, then you can build for the future, and
Exactly.
sometimes we need a loan to do that.
Yes.
We should move on pretty quick. I've got one more question here that was on the Twitter feed. What do you think about, some people have proposed the idea of a government-backed cryptocurrency?
Yeah.
How do you feel? You think, does that tie into what you were talking about, that whatever method we can use to give people payments is good, whatever works?
It's whatever the people want. Like I still think cryptocurrencies, they're very popular with geeks.
Yeah.
But
The practicality still has an issue for you.
I think
Because you need a computer, you need some payment, you need all that stuff that you're talking about a lot of people don't have.
no, it's the user experience. The user
Right, the
experience
user experience
isn't
sucks.
there yet.
Yes, sure,
Yeah.
there's no user experience.
So a government-backed cryptocurrency, at the state of the cryptocurrencies at the moment, no, it's not interesting. But like down the line, probably, yeah. There's definitely some merit behind it. The question is, why would a government do that? I think it would make more sense for...
I mean, why would a government make e-residency? Why would we
No,
make
but
it?
why would they launch their own cryptocurrency rather than just say, that cryptocurrency, that's okay. The blockchain is public. Like, if I say, hey, you have to register your account, I know who this is, I can then just start taxing you anyway.
Right, okay. I mean, look at the Estonian government, what they use with all their online stuff. Okay, there were other solutions. They did roll all their own, but I guess then they used public encryption.
Yes.
The encryption methods they used were...
Yeah.
Right, okay, so that was something, at least they didn't roll their own. That would be weird. We would actually be more concerned.
I would be very concerned
Right,
if
if
the
the
government starts
government
voting. Oh, wait, doesn't the US government do that most of the time?
Probably. All right, very good. I think we're going to move on right now. So thank you very much, Cristiano.
Thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Take your little doggy bag, gift bag. Thank you very much.